Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Priyanka Porwal, and today I am here to explain you the basics of research. Before we start about basics of research, the first thing you should understand is what is research. Why is it important for us to do any type of research? Is research done only in the medical field or dental field, or research is done in all the field? So first thing first, research is something and you have to search. That means you have to understand the background of anything, and then you have to start searching and analyzing what exactly you want to do. And yes, research is done in each and every field. Research starts from the basic of you waking up in the morning till sleeping. When you see everything around you, you think something is going on in your mind. When you understand the concept, you want to do a research. That is the research. You want to search something in it. Why is this done? That is the research. This is what the basic of research. This is what I'm explaining you about research today. So let's get started ahead and be with me, and in case of any doubt you can put on your comments, you can ask question directly to me. You will get all of my information in the slide at the end. Now, so today what are we going to learn? So first thing, we are going to understand what is the research, what are different type of research, what is primary, what is secondary research, what is qualitative and quantitative type of research, what are various secondary researches, what is the hierarchy of the evidence, and following which you will find the references where you can go and read about it. Now, as I asked you initially, the first question, what is research? So, what is research? Research is creating a new knowledge or existing knowledge. You have to find a gap and address that gap in the existing literature, or creating or generating a new concept, methods of or understanding of a new concept. This can be anything. This can be anything. This can be from any side of the field. For example, if I say in dentistry, now AI is coming up. AI is the first thing in dentistry, like latest thing in the dentistry going on. Now I have to do a research on AI. So what research? What am I going to understand? Either I have to create a new model of AI and have to do a research on it, or else I will talk about what has already been done in artificial intelligence in the field of dentistry. So this sort of things, either you have to find the gap and give the answer to it, or otherwise you have to create your own method. That type of things is called as your research. This includes your analysis, your synthesis of previous research, as I told you, analysis or synthesis of previous research, or creating your own outcome. This is what is the research. Now, going ahead, there are two different type of research. First is your primary research, and then is the secondary research. So what is the primary research? Primary research is gathering the fresh data from the evidence. Gathering the fresh data. For example, I want to know about a research on special need children. Now I want to understand the oral health outcome of those children, how the oral health has been taken. So what I will do is I will either go to the dental clinics and understand how they tackle these children with special need, or else I will go and talk to the caregiver or the parents of the children with special needs. So this type of things. So how you can do is, either you are going to do a survey, you are going to do an interview, or you're going to just observe sitting in a clinic or sitting in a hospital, that how they take care of children with a special needs. So those type of study, like getting the first hand data, the fresh data, are the studies which are the primary studies. Now what are the secondary studies? As I told, the primary is fresh, secondary is getting the data from already the study being done. For example, I have a study where I have done an analysis on how the what are the measures, or what are the oral health outcome, or how is the oral health is taken care for the special needs children. Now those things, when I have to understand, when I have to study, I have to think, I have to see what literature have already talked about, and then what I will do is I will generate my hypothesis. I will generate what exactly I want to know. I want to understand how, what is the problem with their, like, are they getting all the, like, I'm talking about special needs children, are they getting all the attention they require, or for oral health care, or their oral health is being neglected? What I'm going to do, what is required, what stakeholders or policymakers should understand, what is the gap. So for that I'll collect all the primary data, I'll put it in my understanding of study, and then what I'm going to do, either I'm going to do a systematic review, I'm going to do a scoping review. So this type of reviews, literature review, this type of things, where you already have an idea what is going on, but you want to find the evidence, you want to know that this is correct or this is not. Those type of studies, those type of research are your secondary research. Now the common sources for searching these articles, or common sources for gathering your data for secondary research are what? Your databases, different databases, for example, PubMed, Google Scholar, Web of Science, Scopus, those type of different databases. Or you can collect the data from the hospital, or you can collect the data, already compiled data, in a clinic or in a public health office. So this type of things, this type of researches are known as secondary researches. So now going ahead, what are different type of primary researches? So primary research is basically divided into three types. First is descriptive, observational, and experimental. What is descriptive? Descriptive is a very basic thing, that is your case study. What is case study? For example, I have done a case which is very new. For example, implant case. I have done an implant surgery. I have used a new abutment, which is like conus abutment, or any new abutment I have used. Now with this abutment, I am going to do a study. I am going to write my case, that how it went, was there any secondary complication, or was the healing delayed. So what all things I have recorded, those I'll do in a case study. So those type of studies are known as descriptive study. However, this study, the only view is my view, is the surgeon's view, or is the view of a person doing a case. So in this you will not get a view of many people. Okay, now coming to the next, observational. So observational again is divided into three parts. First is cohort. Now what is cohort study? Cohort is a group of people having a specific issue. I'm talking about a place where I know that caries rate is high, or I know the tobacco incidence, tobacco eating is high. So I want to know the cancer rate of these people. So what I'll do is, I'll take the cohort of people who already got the cancer, and I'll study on them. Like I am interested in their outcome. Okay, so this is a cohort study. Now what is case control study? Now case control, as I told, by eating tobacco you can say that there is oral cancer, the chances of oral cancer is more. But there are people who are eating tobacco from last 20-15 years and they didn't got a cancer. But there are people who got cancer by eating tobacco. So what my case is, the people who got cancer, and the controls are people who are eating but didn't got. So those type of studies, are called as case control study. Now here you can have any different type of study, different type of people. For example, in an epidemiological study, you have a specific disease. For example, COVID. There were few people who got COVID, but few people who didn't got COVID. So the cases here are the people who got COVID, and the cases living in the same environment, the people who do not so they are the control. So those type of studies are called as case control study. Now coming next to the cross sectional. So what is the cross sectional? It's like this cross. So what is a cross sectional study? Is you are going to compare population with a different aspect. For example, I say I am doing a forehead measurement. Now I want to know the forehead measurement, is it depend upon the ethnic this, or it depends on the age. I'll see the young people, like children, they might have different forehead measurement as compared to the adults. So why the forehead measurement is important, what I'm going to do, how am I going to do the how am I going to get the data out of it. So those type of cross sectional studies, this type of studies are called as cross sectional study. Now coming next is the experimental study. Now what are the experimental studies? Now there are two different type of experimental, non-randomized control trial and one is randomized control trial. Now what are non-randomized? As name suggests, you don't have to divide the patient according to the treatment given. Means the patient knows what type of treatment is being given and what is the effect of that treatment. So here you are not going, just it's an experimental study. So this study can be even done in your clinic also, where that in a laboratory also, where that what type of what type of treatment has been provided, or what is the laboratory like what is the laboratory measures which we are providing for a specific test, whatever it is. But here in non-randomized experimental study, the observer and the receiver, both know what type of treatment they are giving or what type of treatment they are receiving. Whereas in randomized control trial, the patient is randomly by patient or the sample or what specimen, whatever you call, they are randomly divided. So even the researcher or the observer, they don't know that which group who belongs. There are two types of randomized control trial. One is single blinded, one is double blinded. In single blinded, the researcher know that which group is what. Whereas in double blinded, neither the researcher nor the observer or not the receiver knows what type of treatment has been given to him or what type of what type of treatment is given to whom, which group belongs, which patient or which specimen belongs to which group. Even researcher doesn't know, and along with that the reviewer also, well, the receiver also doesn't know about it. So going ahead with, I hope you understood what is the primary study. So primary study here is getting the data first hand. Now coming to the secondary studies, as I mentioned, secondary studies are the studies from where you already have the data and you have to collect the information, you have to know the information. So those type of studies are known as secondary studies. So what are different type of secondary studies? Secondary studies are your reviews, for example, systematic review, your literature review, your mapping review, your bibliometric analysis. There are so many type of secondary studies, but here I'm talking about the major systematic major secondary studies which maximum of researchers or doctors um, or students have to do, and they are literature review, which is known as which can be a narrative or simple review, or systematic review, which is again divided into meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is the qualitative synthesis or quantitative synthesis of a study. Now with this I will explain you in the further style what is qualitative and quantitative, and the scoping review. Now each of this review has specific study design which you have to follow, and if you need to ask any question in regards to this, you can ask me at the end of the lecture. Now going ahead, as I told you, primary research and secondary research. Now here we are talking about qualitative and quantitative research. What is a qualitative? As name suggests, quality. You have quality of the research. It is the first hand data which you are getting is qualitative, and quantitative is also your first hand data. But in qualitative, the persons are being involved. For example, if I say I am taking an interview, those type of studies, focus group interviews, those type of studies are your qualitative studies. Whereas in quantitative studies, the observational studies where you have to observe people, the case control studies, the cohort studies mostly comes in the quantitative type of studies. Now going ahead, what is qualitative and quantitative? So as I explained you earlier, that the just understand that in qualitative study you have to understand the human mind, you have to understand the behavior, you have to understand the pattern. It is a subjective approach. You are approaching to a person or you are approaching to your research question in a subjective way, whereas in a quantitative study you are approaching to your research answer in an objective way. Here you are giving a logical reasoning, you are giving a statistical analysis. So how you this type of data are being collected? Quantitative data are like survey, experimental studies, your observational studies, and the main reason of doing a quantitative research is to see the cause and the effect between the subject or between this study model. So this type of research, and mostly quantitative research, are conclusive, whereas qualitative research or exploratory research, this type of research helps you to develop your hypothesis. Always when you do a qualitative research, you have to develop a new hypothesis. Okay, this is happening, now I have to see if this is happening here, if I'm seeing specific problem happening or a specific issue happening in a specific society or specific cohort of people, I have to go and see that is like this type of study has been done in different cohort of people. Was the answer same? So those things, when I'm going to collect the data, when I'm going to answer those type of data, those things, it comes under your quantitative study. So always remember that qualitative study is the understanding of the behavior of a particular incidents or particular recall things of a subject. Whereas in quantitative, you have to give a logical answer. Statistical analysis has been done or mathematical techniques have been done here. And this is an objective approach and the other one is a subjective approach. Now going ahead, the steps you have to design, steps you have to understand while designing your research. So what are the steps? As I was explaining from the earlier, the first thing is that you have to identify what is the problem, what is the issue which has been talked about here. If I am talking about, I want to see a specific, like I am talking about a cohort of people that they are having, cohort of children that they are having larger milk caries. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go do a literature review. I'll search in the literature what has been talked about the milk caries, how they happen, by the specific cohort or specific children have milk caries, what are the chances of having high rate of milk carries. So those type of things I will do. Then what I'm going to do is, once I have done the literature review, I know what is the gap existing here. Then I will develop my research question. From this I have to develop my research question, my objective and my hypothesis. So what is going to be my research question here is, what are the main reasons for the occurrence of milk caries. Now, what is going to be my objective? Okay, I'm going to understand what are the reasons here. Then I'm going to give my hypothesis that, okay, this is the reason, this is the treatment given. Maybe with this treatment, it is good or maybe it is not good. So those type of hypotheses I'm going to develop. Then once the hypothesis, once everything is developed, now I'm going to think that, okay, now I have my research question, I have my objective. Now how am I going to get the answer for my research question? There comes is how you are going to design your study and what type of samples are required in your study design. For example, if I am talking about milk caries, so here what type of sample? Here I am talking about the children's below 5 years of age, below 6 years of age. So those is my sample population. What is going to be my study design? Depends. Am I planning to interview the parents of such type of children, or am I going to go into hospital and get the data? So those type of things. Now I have to think what type of study I have to design. After that, once I have designed my studies, I know what sample. Then I have to go and collect the data. I have to collect the data. I have to collect the incidence rate of how many people. For example, I'm living in Japan area, so I have to see how many children or children in Jazan region have the incidence of milk caries. So I have to do the steps. So now I have to collect the data. Once I have the data incidence rate collected, once I have everything observed, everything done, now what I'll do, I'll give the answer that, okay, now after collecting the data, after understanding the incidence rate, after understanding everything, I can say now that because the oral hygiene is not maintained, or the after giving milk to the kids, the teeth are not being cleaned properly, whatsoever it is the reason. Now then I'm going to analyze my data and I'll give my conclusion. So these steps we have to take in our research design. So this is what is called as your steps in research design, and you have to be very specific while designing or while performing your research. Now, as I explained you earlier, this is the complete slides explained here also about the steps which we take. Now, first, as I told you, that we have to understand what the topic of our study is, why we have chosen, what is the major problem in this topic. Then we have to do a literature review. We have to formulate the hypothesis, research question and objective. Then we have to develop the research design, that what type of research design is important for collecting or analyzing this data. So once the data has been collected, once the data has been um, collected, then we have to analyze. So how are we going to collect this data and how we are going to do the analysis? What type of statistical test is required or thematic analysis is required? So what is our study design? These steps are going to come accordingly. So these are the steps. Now, once this I have talked about your primary study. Now I am talking about the secondary study, which is your review. So how the review has been done. There are steps in review also. The same steps but in a different way. So the first thing here comes is identifying your research question. What is your research question? What is your problem statement? the first thing in every research you have to identify is why you want to do this research. Then once you have done identify, then what you have to do is you have to develop your search strategy. You have to think what type of article you are going to include, what type of articles you are going to exclude, what type of researches you are going to what is your population of interest. This comes, what is your intervention, with which your intervention is going to be compared, what outcome you are going to what is your outcome of interest. So this type of things, this you have to develop in your search strategy by thinking your PICO. Now PICO is population, intervention, comparison and outcome, which you do in your systematic review or in any type of review which you are performing. However, in literature review it is not important to do a PICO. Then after that, once you have developed your search strategy, then what you will do is you will start searching the article, searching the literature. And once you start searching the literature, you have your different databases from which you search. And then from the different databases, you should download all the articles, or you can download the articles of your interest to Excel sheet directly and can take citation also from that directly. So this type of things you have to do. Once this literature search and citation has been managed, you will critically analyze the articles which are being included in your study. Once you critically analyze, for example, if I am talking about any drug, randomized control trials I am taking, I am talking about the drug effect of a specific drug on oral cancer. So what I am going to do is I am going to compare this newly formed drug with an old drug or old method of controlling cancer, grade 2 cancer I am talking about here, grade 2 oral cancer. So here I am seeing about a specific treatment, chemotherapy, and I am talking about chemotherapy and radiotherapy combination. So what I am going to do is my intervention is a specific chemotherapy, specific drug, and my comparison is with the combination of other drugs with the radiotherapy. So which is more effective? So what I'm going to do is, now I have all the articles, I have to analyze the studies, I have to make a table where I'm going to understand the comparison and intervention, and I'm going to conclude that which is better. And then once everything is done, what I'm going to do is I'll see how much, if there is high heterogeneity in between my study designs or in between my studies, then I'm not going to do a meta-analysis. However, if there is heterogeneity is low, I know that this can be, the treatment can be checked via meta-analysis, evidence can be given, then I'm going to do a statistical analysis, that is meta-analysis for this. And once everything is done, I will synthesize my data and I will start writing my review. So this type of steps have been followed in your secondary review. An explanation exactly what I have told you is being explained in this slide, where I have explained you that how you have to define your research question, how you have to develop your search strategy, how you have to search, critically analyze and synthesize, and finally write up with your methodological quality. Now, what is hierarchy? You might have heard hierarchy of evidence. Hierarchy of evidence suggests which studies are of more evidence, which studies give you more evidence compared to other studies. For here, the information which you get the highest is from the systematic review and meta-analysis. So what are the basic information? The basic information which you get, as I told you, is with your background editorial reports. Because just in editorial report, if someone asks me, I will just write, okay, this drug came new and it has this, so this is my opinion and I'm going to write it to the editor of a journal. So this is an editorial report and it is completely my opinion. Now then there comes with a case control study and the case series or case reports, then cohort studies, randomized control trial, and then you're critically appraising individual articles. Then the systematic review, the final the hierarchy of evidence, the top of the mountain is the systematic reviews, where you get the proper evidence of the article or proper evidence of what has been spoken. Finally, this is the reference. Thank you so much for concentrating on my lecture. My name is Dr. Priyanka Porwal, and you can contact me via LinkedIn, or you can contact me via my email address in case of any doubt you have. Thank you so much. Thank you.